Ladies and gentlemen, do you remember? And in the comments section, in the chat, let me know. Do you remember when it took about less than 3 minutes for Trump to completely annihilate Jeb Bush in 2015 and 2016 during the Republican primary debates? Do you remember that? In the comments section, let me know. In the super chat, and I can't do this without you, to my super chat, thank you so very much for your generosity and your support. Let me know if you remember how easy it was to dismantle the Bush and Cheney dynasties. Eric and Luke, thank you for being amazing moderators as always. Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. That is going to be below in the description section. And how easy was it for Trump? Let me know if you remember how easy it was for Trump to completely annihilate and dismantle two dynasties in less than a year. And if you look at 538, they're not really focused like Cheney and Kinzinger, Bush. They're fine with Trump's tax cuts, his Supreme Court justices. In fact, Cheney and Kinzinger, according to 538, voted alongside President Trump in Congress 90% of the time. Again, Cheney and Kinzinger, according to 538, tracking Congress in the age of Trump. Tracking Congress in the age of Trump. They voted alongside Trump 90+% of the time. They have no problem with 3 Supreme Court justices that are conservative, that Trump appointed. Trump's tax cuts that helped spur economic growth. The Dallas Federal Reserve documented that. It did add to the GDP. And now we have GDP revised downwards, the greatest margin debt in the history of the stock market, inflation that's runaway inflation, not transitory. We can go on forever. There's going to be a stock market crash. That's why I say subscribe to my Stock Market Crash channel. It'll be below in the description section. Conrad! What a thumbnail. Conrad, thank you. It's actually my my prom photo. Conrad, thank you. Isn't that amazing? Conrad, thank you. Starting it off, thank you so very much. Conrad, as always. It took Trump a couple of months to dismantle 2 dynasties, and he's doing it again. And what they don't understand is that it emboldens. See, Trump on social media emboldens Democrats, gives them political fuel. Bush Republicans, neoconservatives, the Bill Kristol, Lincoln Project people give fuel to Trump's movement. They are like the lifeblood of every reason to vote for Trump. If you are a Democrat and you retweet the Lincoln Project, you're an absolute imbecile. Because these people opposed marriage equality, wanted a marriage amendment, should have been canceled in our culture just for that alone. But they pushed for every failed military intervention from Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and they pushed for regime change in Syria. They never saw a failed military endeavor that they didn't like and push for. And so you are talking about Cheney and Kinzinger voting 90% of the time in favor, in line with Trump, on issues that most conservatives or Republicans agree upon. And I'm not conservative on everything, as you know. I'm liberal on some things, but I definitely support President Trump. Second Amendment, I have basically seen the light, and it is a cult on the left. And the sooner that you leave the left, the better it is for you. But I'm not a Republican. I'm not a registered Republican or Democrat. I used to be a lifelong Democrat. Political parties mean nothing to me. Nothing. If it's a choice between Tulsi Gabbard and Jeb Bush, I'm voting for Tulsi Gabbard. Political parties mean nothing to me. They mean nothing to Trump either. And Conrad, thank you so very, very much. It took Trump less than two or 3 months, less than a year. From the end of 2015 to the beginning of 2016, Jeb Bush was done, essentially done as a viable political candidate. Okay? You had a dynasty of 12 years in the Oval Office from Herbert Walker Bush to George W. Completely decimated by Trump. And Jeb was supposed to be the smart one, so we got the younger brother, the maniac. And he didn't keep us safe. That is the most absurd propaganda spin of all time. The worst attack happened under his watch. And then, because thank God, our adversaries didn't try in the same type of manner. And there were things that were done, obviously, to keep us safer. But the notion that he kept us safe ignores the fact that the worst tragedy took place under his watch. And you had Americans sent to never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts that President Trump reversed, at least in one theater in Afghanistan, with the Doha Agreement. Biden deliberately botched the Doha Agreement by refusing to leave before May 1st, refusing to evacuate in January, February, March, April of this year, arbitrarily deciding to evacuate in August, where we abandoned an air base, Bagram, and we pulled all of our forces out, except we kept a small number of soldiers who were tasked with the impossible, to evacuate 120,000 people within the span of 2 to 3 weeks. And because of that, Biden's administration was forced to, or in the most incompetent, inept manner, utilize the T-ban, we'll call them the T-ban, to vet Americans to be security around the Kabul airport, where Biden's administration gave them lists of American names and Afghan names. Does that make any sense at all? Does that make any sense at all? Does that make any sense at all to you? Why would you give the adversaries lists of American names and ask them to help you evacuate when you could have started evacuating in January, but you didn't do so to spite Trump? But again, Biden voted alongside Bush for everything. Look, you're talking about Biden made the most despicable comments about Haiti. Made the most despicable, this was in the 90s, made the most despicable comments while he was running, said, "You ain't who you are if you don't vote for me." He's forgiven. The man wrote the sentencing disparity in the crime bill. All the protests last year were essentially aimed at reversing what Joe Biden helped create. And the irony, or the hypocrisy of Democrats is lost upon the left. They utilize Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, along with Biden, Clinton, Kerry, and eventually, to a great extent, President Obama. President Obama actually didn't do this so much as the old guard Democrats and the neoconservative Republicans. They utilize grievances and suffering and they distort history, recent and, events of the past, tragedies of the past, atrocities of the past, and they say, vote for us because we know how you feel, and we know how to address whatever, threat or foreign policy or national security concern of the moment is. So you have to do everything. We see this now with the public health crisis. We have pumped into the economy over $5 trillion in fiscal stimulus, not counting $3.3 trillion in quantitative easing from the Federal Reserve. Okay? Approaching $10 trillion. And there's going to be a stock market crash. Biden's administration will be very similar to Bush's. Starting off with a foreign policy catastrophe. We saw that in Afghanistan. There could be, God forbid, further catastrophes. And a stock market crash. Conrad! I voted for Bush. I also complained at the time about skyrocketing the deficit as a compromise. We'll follow a Dem budget as long as it's 20 years old. Exactly. Conrad, thank you. Conrad, thank you. And I actually don't blame a lot of people who voted for Bush were deceived by a deliberate distortion of intelligence. The intelligence community has been wrong on every major topic. WMD came after the Bay of Pigs, Gulf of Tonkin. They didn't predict the fall of the Berlin Wall. Jimmy Carter's administration was filled with massive intelligence failures. Iran. You can look at the intelligence community. What they do, sometimes they provide intelligence. Oftentimes, they provide a reason or justification for a policy that politicians want implemented. Conrad, thank you. Can you believe this, Conrad? Democrats were talking about deficits with Trump because of the tax cuts. The tax cuts led to economic growth. We had record low Black and Latino unemployment. Fact. We had record low unemployment. We had wage increases. Right before March of 2020, we had higher than expected job numbers, Conrad, and wage increases. And then we went to toilet paper shortages within a matter of months, and stimulus checks within a matter of months, and moratorium on evictions within a matter of months. Conrad, thank you so very much. We have added $5 trillion to the deficit, or to the national debt, sorry. We had a $3 trillion plus deficit last year. We'll have $1 trillion something or $2 trillion this year. And the economy's not rebounding in the manner that it should because it was a self-induced wound. Democrats and media gleefully told everyone, you can't begin working. You can't do that. You can't begin working. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. The experts say, even though Sweden didn't do what we did and they had a much better situation than us. You have to, like, the Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld, and that was the worst administration of all time because they took advantage of a very vulnerable point in American history. We have hundreds of thousands of PTSD and traumatic brain injuries and everything from hearing loss to, we're still dealing with issues from depleted uranium in theaters of war. And we were not prepared as a country. Nobody can be for 20 years of endless wars. And before the Afghanistan evacuation, There were articles written, oh, well, you know, the populists, the Trumpers are against, quote-unquote, endless wars. Well, we see now that we had to stay. Then 13 Americans lost their lives within a matter of minutes. These establishment imbeciles and buffoons in places like The Atlantic and other publications were saying, oh, well, we should have stayed longer forever. You know, there wasn't a casualty or a serious engagement in 1 year. And then within a matter of minutes, 13 Americans were lost, and 169 to 200 Afghans lost their lives. And I don't know how many injured. Within a matter of minutes. Because that's the nature of a counterinsurgency conflict. Things can change within a matter of seconds because you are in a dystopian world. And then when they say, well, Americans are left behind for an extended vacation, where their head can take an extended vacation from their bodies, God forbid, because the T-Ban and the IK and AQ and every other despicable organization there is running the show, and Biden's administration said, well, we contacted Americans 19 times. You see this on social media. The same people who thought Trump worked with Russia because of a Steele dossier purchased by Clinton and the Democrats. They say, well, we contacted people 19 times. Yeah. Do you think the cell phone service works? Do you think the Wi-Fi is working pretty well, good in Kabul now? What, did you text them? What happened? There are 20 to 30 checkpoints. There are American citizens and residents of this country stuck still in that country. We left Americans behind, and media didn't care. Democrats didn't care. The Afghanistan evacuation, unfortunately, and I say this with all due respect, unfortunately, okay? The Afghanistan evacuation, unfortunately, will be a precursor, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to be right on this. Ring in, hello. The Afghanistan evacuation is a precursor to what Biden is all about. Okay? He doesn't have any vision at all. He doesn't... Look, Hillary Clinton would be a better president than Joe Biden. Do you think I would ever say that Clinton would be a better president than anyone? Hillary Clinton, not a fan, committed numerous crimes with top secret intelligence on private servers, would be a million times or a lot better. Actually, a million times better than Biden. You want to know why? Because I wouldn't have liked the direction that she would take us in, but you need some kind of vision. Trump had vision. We had record low unemployment. We had the Doha Agreement. We had the Abraham Accords. We had the first president to step foot in North Korea. President Moon Jae-in stated that Trump deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. It was an amazing thing. You know, it was the beginning of détente. Obviously, there are critiques. You can critique Trump rationally on any topic, but to say he was an authoritarian despot, that's like you lack knowledge of history if you say that. You're ignorant of history. You don't even have a cursory knowledge of history if you think Trump is a despot and authoritarian when you compare what people, like actual despots, did to their populations and to the world. But Hillary Clinton would at least not listen to, at least she would lead. At least she would have a vision of the future. Some kind of vision. Okay? Biden has no vision. Mashed potato brains is a creation of media, or is led by bumbling Blinken. USA kicks butt, hello! Love you, bro. Thank you so very much. USA kicks butt, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you so very much. USA kicks butt, thank you. The reason I say, which is very bizarre, not a fan at all, but that Hillary would be better than mashed potato brains Biden is because if you're on a boat, a ship, and your captain has a vision of where the ship is going, you might be sailing to a port you don't want to sail to, but at least you're sailing to a port. At least you're going to eventually hit land somehow. Okay? If you took the Exxon Valdez captain and the Titanic captain and merged them into one, like the photo of Cheney and Bush, you still would get somebody with a greater sense of navigation than mashed potato brains Biden, who doesn't know where he's going ever. He doesn't know. He doesn't look. Mashed potato brains is told by other imbeciles they're pulling his microphone. Do you understand? They're pulling the man's microphone. They're not trying to keep up appearances. They don't care anymore. Okay? You know, like the Gong Show? Remember the Gong Show where like they had the big gong, or like those shows where like the old variety shows where there'd be like a hook. You just like the dancer's like, "Hello, my baby," and then like no, boo, and then they pull the entertainer away with the hook. That's what they're gonna do with Biden. They'll probably take a big like fishing net and pull him away from the camera. E.P. Gregory! H.A. been a supporter since you predicted OMB's win in 2016. Keep it going. God bless you, youngster. Thank you, E.P. Gregory. Thank you so very much for being here for so long. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. E.P. Gregory, thank you. Thank you so very much, E.P. Gregory. And you've been here, I mean, my God, you've been here since the very beginning. My God. You were here when I just started. Thank you, E.P. Gregory. Greatly, greatly appreciated. I look back, E.P. Gregory, at my old segments, and it's almost like looking back at somebody like doing like home movies from like the Jonestown camp, or like like it's like I was stuck. I was so stuck in this very flawed paradigm. And the great thing about voting for Trump is that if you vote for Trump, you're actually telling Republicans and Democrats, which is why Cheney and Pelosi don't like Trump. You're telling them you don't care about a political party. I don't care about political parties. Neither did George Washington, by the way. I don't care about political parties. I don't care about one party. The lesser evil politics only leads to greater evils. Thank you. Thank you so very much, E.P. Gregory. Thank you so very much for being here for so long. Robbie, hello. Trump doesn't care about Trump doesn't care about allegiance to a political party. He also, the best thing about Trump, Squirrely Girl, thank you. The best thing about Trump. What's the best thing about Trump? Tell me right now. All 347 people. Give me, what's the best thing? I'll tell you what the best thing about Trump is. But tell me what the best thing about Trump is in your mind. E.P. Gregory, thank you so very much. USA kicks butt, thank you so very much. Conrad, what's the best thing about Trump? Testa, hello. I will tell you the absolute best thing about Trump. By far. I will tell you right now the best thing about Trump and the worst thing about Democrats, Biden, Pelosi, Twitter. I will tell you the best thing about Trump and the worst thing about Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, well, Bush and Pelosi and Biden, and AOC and others. I'll tell you the best thing about Trump and the worst thing about establishment Democrats, which includes AOC, by the way, and neoconservative Republicans. The best thing about Trump is that Conrad, for the Gong Show reference. I got more references. Conrad, thank you. Thank you, Gnarly. Thank you. Gnarly News. Conrad, thank you. The best thing about Trump, Conrad, is that he doesn't care what you do, what you say, what you think, how you feel. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if you vote for him. Trump does not care if you vote for him. He does not care. This is the most refreshing, best thing. Trump does not care if you vote for him. He's not speaking, and I think that he should actually speak to people on the fence, but he doesn't speak to people on the fence. That's how much he doesn't care. I mean, I think maybe he should try to. It's just politics after all, but whatever. The best thing about Trump is that he doesn't care if you vote for him, if you vote for Democrats, if you are a lifelong Democrat and despise him. He doesn't really care that much if you admire him. He doesn't care. He has a vision. He wanted to implement tariffs against China. He wanted to bring home Americans. He wanted to have a great economy. He did all of those things. He wanted Supreme Court justices, federal judges, hundreds of federal judges, conservative federal judges. He did all of that to protect the Second Amendment, while Democrats erased both the First and Second Amendment, while giving social media algorithms, social media companies, carte blanche on how to suppress the New York Post story that's been vindicated pertaining to Hunter Biden's fantastic emails. He doesn't care what you do with your life. Jean-Louis! Trump was a trendsetter. Now all politicians look orange. Well, you know what's interesting? Jean-Louis, there was an Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. He had the spray tan going on always. That was before Trump. So I don't know if Silvio Berlusconi was the original Orange Menace, but Jean-Louis, if you look, type in Silvio Berlusconi, and you can see he was Prime Minister of Italy from 94 to 95, 2001, 2006, 2008, 2011. And he had the tan going on for a long time. So he might have preceded Trump in terms of the tanning salon. Jean-Louis, thank you. Morgan Weaver, thank you so very, very much. Morgan Weaver, thank you. Thank you, Morgan. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you. Morgan Weaver, thank you so much. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you. Can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen, so I appreciate your support greatly. The best thing about Trump is that he doesn't care who you vote for. The worst thing about Democrats is that if you don't vote for them, If you don't vote for them, Morgan and everybody here, if you don't vote for them, you're not who you are. Democrats look at voting groups as commodities. All voting groups. Their core constituents. They claim to want diversity, but they don't want diversity of thought. They want uniformity of thought from different people of different backgrounds. The biggest hypocrites on the planet. And Trump doesn't hide behind virtues. And he'll bring up what he thinks is right or wrong. Sometimes he'll bring it up in a manner that he shouldn't, in my view, just because it helps Democrats. And perhaps gives a wrong message to people. From here on out, if he doesn't like something, it would be better if he didn't use profanity here and there. With Bush and Cheney, it's not a problem, but with other individuals, it could be a problem. I just think you could be more strategic. That's all I'm saying. He has to be more strategic. But ladies and gentlemen, the best thing about Trump is that he doesn't care what you think. The worst thing about Democrats is that if you don't show blind allegiance. Thank you, David. Thank you, Gary. If you don't show hello, Amanda. If you don't show blind allegiance to Democrats, they will excommunicate you, shame you, try to get you fired from work. They don't have, that's why they boycott anyone they don't like and get social media algorithms to suppress anything they don't like. Their arguments don't stand up to scrutiny. They don't have ideas that stand up to scrutiny. They don't have arguments or ideas that stand up to scrutiny or to any, rebuttal, to most rebuttals. That's why, if they don't have Major League Baseball moving the All-Star game, if they don't have Jimmy Kimmel every night selling his soul to the Democratic Party and not being funny, Kimmel is not funny. He's never been that funny at all. Colbert used to be funny, but now he's they've all completely sold their souls to one political party at the expense of truth. Even if you're a lifelong Democrat, you have to admit that Democrats aren't right about everything. Trump isn't right about everything. I love Trump. He's not right about everything. There are things he could do better. But these people, they say Trump divides the country. Their reaction to Trump divided the country. Just like their reaction, their hysterical, apoplectic, irrational, completely counterproductive, failed reaction to a global health crisis caused 22 million jobs to be lost. 22 million jobs in a matter of months after March of 2020. 22 million jobs. And we still have 10 million jobs that haven't come back. And when you have a country that's flourishing and prospering and people are living their lives and people are working to get bonuses and raises, maybe starting a business for the first time, maybe going to school to better themselves, to then start a business or to enter a career, you stop all of society. We have 160 million Americans in the labor force. The labor force is about 170 million Americans. Okay? Labor force in August is 161 million Americans. Okay? The average age of the labor force is 42 years old, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to know what government statistics say about how many lives were lost from the global health crisis, we'll say, in this country? almost 100%, or I should say over 99% of the lives lost were above the age of 42. Over 99%, according to, this is a fact, according to CDC government data. Go look at the numbers of lives lost per age. It is a fact. It is a fact. 99% of the lives lost were above the age of 42, according to government data. And you prevented the entire labor force from working. And cancer and heart disease ended the lives of more Americans. So you do the math on that one. It was the most irrational, destructive reaction fueled by media. Fueled by media. And Democrats who want Trump out of office. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2020, the average age of the labor force was 42 years old. And you prevented healthy people from working. Congratulations, Democrats and media. You did nothing for the world. Billy, hello. You have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where if media says jump off a cliff, if media says go hike up this tall mountain, and then at a certain point on the mountain there's a cliff, and if media says, you know what, now it's time to pretend you're Superman, Democrats will put on a cape and pretend that they're Superman or the Roadrunner. And or Wile E. Coyote. They will believe anything. Half of the country, ladies and gentlemen, half of the country will believe anything. Anything media says. Anything. Do you understand anything? They will believe anything. Okay? They will believe anything that media says. All it takes, and it's not difficult at all. It's not difficult at all. All it takes is a consensus of very smart people and a constant media barrage. If you walk by a Nike billboard one time, 100 times, 200 times, you're not going to buy a Nike. Maybe. You probably won't. If you walk by it 700 times in the span of a year and a half, and a Nike ad pops up, you will very likely buy a Nike shoe that's on sale. Okay? You'll very likely buy a Nike shoe after seeing the ad. 700 times, because that's the advertising works with repetition. Advertising doesn't just work with one commercial. It's not about even the commercial or the ad. It's about the repetition. You need to continually see the same thing all the time. That's how advertising and marketing works. Democrats are one giant advertising company. They don't they come at you with repetition. Okay? They come at you with repetition. And what they do is, like a boxer, boxers, when they really good boxers, they go for the body. They go for the body more so than just trying to take someone out with an uppercut. Or they just get you. They get you with these, body shots and punches to the ribs and the stomach and eventually you're gonna move your hands up. Eventually, they'll go for the knockout. But the opponent will be tired, and they just keep on going to the body to tire out the opponent, and that's why Trump's handling of the pandemic was high, to the dismay of Democrats. To the dismay of Democrats. The handling was high. Yes, it's true, it was. Okay. And people were wondering and saying, okay, wait a second. How can Trump's handling of the pandemic how could his handling of the pandemic be approved? Like, how could people approve of his handling? So what they did was they said, okay, we need to step up the coverage. We need to step up the coverage. Okay? So instead of dealing with Trump in a manner that they would deal with Biden or any other president, actually, they say, well, we're going to shape public opinion. If people are giving him the benefit of the doubt, we're going to shape public opinion. And we'll make sure that this man, that everybody is blamed, that every single person is blamed for, that Trump is blamed for everything that happens, every single thing that happens under his watch. We'll make sure that Trump is blamed for every single thing that takes place under his watch. And that's what took place. They had an endless barrage. They had an endless barrage of blame and hostility and social media angst, and it was leveled towards Trump. And it worked. It worked. Okay, it worked. And that's what they do. That's what they do. And that's how they roll. I mean, you have to understand when looking at President Trump, and I think he needs to understand this too, that it isn't just about what he does as president. It's about how it's about how Democrats and media will spin any triumph and blame any disaster on Trump. Anything good he did, they didn't give him credit for. Anything bad he did, or anything bad that happened, was his fault directly. The mainstream is not talking about Afghanistan, not talking about Chris Cuomo, not talking about Hunter Biden, not talking about them pulling Biden's microphone away. They're completely covering up for Biden. They're completely covering up for Biden. And when Bush won re-election, he got tremendous media support. tremendous media support. Trump didn't have that. Trump didn't have the luxury of that. And so when people say, "Oh, well, I don't like Trump's values. I don't like Trump's values. I don't like what Trump stands for." You don't know his values because you don't know what he stands for, because if you say that, you are believing the media version, the interpretation by people who despise him. You're not actually looking at what he's done. Rose McGowan is a hero. I would say Nicki Minaj is a hero. These people are like, if you go up against the system, especially a system propped up by Democrats in Hollywood, you are going to get your voice, even though they say, "Oh, let's amplify voices." They don't mean that. They mean amplify only the voices of people that back their viewpoints, their ideology. Democrats don't, when they say Democrats like big government, that's not entirely true. They don't like big government if it's run by Trump. So Trump increased the size of government, but they don't like that. They want Democrats like big government if they're increasing the size of government. They believe in regulations and big government and government spending, and if they are the ones doing the spending. If Trump is, they don't trust the government. They don't trust officials. They don't trust a consensus of officials that agree with Trump. Because, interestingly enough, there's never a consensus of experts that agree with Republicans on anything. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that amusing? So many morally superior liberals will say, well, obviously, they're never right about anything. Well, obviously, you can't find a consensus. No, the reality is there's, of course, a consensus on a number of topics by a great many academics, authorities, experts, current and former government officials. You never hear about a consensus on any topic that would bolster or Trump's viewpoint or would correlate with anything that Trump is saying on any topic, because that's not the way media works. Media distorts reality and fabricates consensus when it suits them and ignores any dissent, ignores any dialogue or debate or discourse, marginalizes and tries to silence and suppress and disparage anyone who could perhaps infiltrate their fabricated consensus with an opposing viewpoint. Do you think that every doctor in the world believes one thing? Do you think that every scientist believes one thing? Do you think that every foreign policy expert, do you think that every intelligence operative believes one thing? There's a battle for political power. It's so easy to understand. And Democrats have media. And media is very important to half the country. Half the country believed what Bush was saying with WMD. Half the country believe what Democrats have been saying and media have been saying about, a number of topics. The pendulum swings to, Republicans take control of media in the early 2000s, then Democrats take control of media now, and they have a tremendous tool. They can publicize and justify outright lies. Adam! I will not. Adam, God bless you. God bless you. Adam Cohen, thank you. God bless you. God bless you, Adam. Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Dialogue, discourse, discussion, debate, critical thinking. These are all negative things for most Democrats. That's why when you ask very young, idealistic, left-leaning people, if you ask them, what do you think about the First Amendment? They say, well, you know what? If it promotes, bad theories, it should be abolished. Or it's like, well, no, the only way. This is like when I debated Richard Spencer, I did so from the vantage point of his ideas were not logical. They were irrational. So I defeated his ideas, which I find despicable, with reason and logic. And it was a debate where we had discourse. Watch the last 20 minutes where there's reason. Like, I defeated an opposing viewpoint that I disagree with vehemently through reason and logic. That's what you do. The debate is on my website, and it's on this channel. You can type in H.A. Goodman debate Richard Spencer. Do you think that anyone at Slate or the Daily Beast or BuzzFeed or The Atlantic they're going to say that these people are, they're a big scourge upon the country? Well, then why don't you defeat their ideology the way I did? It's not difficult. You have a discussion, debate, and you use reason and logic, and you defeat any opposing ideology that makes no sense or is harmful. How difficult is that? They don't want to do that. That's not the way Democrats work. Democrats, media, morally superior liberals they can't have an open dialogue on anything. So that's why they have to suppress news stories. They have to suppress dissenting opinion, opposing viewpoints. They fact check in the most absurd manner. It's not a fact check. Simply saying we spoke to this authority is an appeal to an authority. Experts say is not an argument. Adam, thank you. Experts say is not an argument. That's not an argument. That is not an argument. It's an appeal to authority. It's it's one of the logical fallacies. So you're looking at a world where the more suppression of thought, the better it is for media and the Democratic Party. If you were to actually say, hey, judge Hunter Biden in the same manner you judge Trump, where are the investigations? You have incriminating evidence. You had a Steele dossier with Trump, but you won't investigate Hunter's emails. Why is that? Because they're hypocrites. This is why people don't trust. This is like when you ask Joy Behar. Joy Behar at The View, will do everything possible to show the world the utter hypocrisy of morally superior liberals. She will actually blame, what does she say? That the true people who suffered the most were the American people, not Monica Lewinsky. Oh, thank you, Joy. I knew I could count on you. Bill Clinton lied under oath. He lied under what is his? I did not have relations. I is not having relations. How could I if I is not right now? Come on now. Think. Use basic logic. During his deposition, he said currently at that moment he wasn't having relations, and his version, his idea of relations was different from humanity's idea of relations. So he committed perjury. Okay? And then there's a power imbalance and all of that they talk about. Look, the issue is that it takes two to tango, but also you're talking about a president who could have simply said, yes, I was romantically involved. I shouldn't have been, and that's it. Hi, hello. You could have simply said that. Instead, they disparage Monica Lewinsky, and then 20 years later, Monica Lewinsky says, "Oh, I don't like Trump." It's like they did the same. Like, why? They did the same thing. They did the same thing. Like, everyone is just trying. It's like, Monica Lewinsky voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So there you go. Monica Lewinsky on Trump impeachment win. Gee, I had to give videoed witness testimony. Yeah, because something happened. But see, again, it's like you could be treated in the most horrible manner. It's like there's something called Stockholm syndrome. They should call it Bernie Sanders syndrome. Stockholm. Stockholm syndrome is a condition in which develop a psychological bond with their captors. So that's what it's. Stockholm syndrome should be renamed Bernie Sanders syndrome. And you see this like. No, it's like the opposite of the force is the dark side, right? And so you have Monica Lewinsky retweeting the Daily Beast. I don't even know if the Daily Beast was around back then, but you better believe that the Daily Beast would have disparaged her in every single article and propped up and defended Clinton. And done everything possible to. I mean, look what they did to Tara Reid with Biden. I mean, it's like so obvious. They have the left in general that does not treat. They don't abide by the principles they claim to uphold. So when they say believe women, they only believe the women that go against Republicans, not Democrats. It's pretty obvious. They're focused on Texas now. There are bigger problems in the world caused by Biden's policies. Much bigger. We still have Americans left in Afghanistan. And the Daily Beast now is getting one of the editors, in addition to Mary Trump, are getting sued, in addition to New York Times reporters. How on earth did they find? The question is, how on earth did they obtain Trump's the Trump's records? How? How did they obtain Trump's records? I'd love to know that. Trump would love to know. There's $100 million there. And then the journalists, they're talking a lot because they're protected by either the insurance company of the publication or the publication's going to pay for their legal bills. But if Trump sued them personally, it'd be a different story. So I don't know if you could do. I think that you could possibly do that if there's evidence that they actually went out on their own and did something that was not sanctioned by the Daily Beast or the New York Times. But he's suing a bunch of people for $100 million. So you have to ask yourself, how did they get Trump's tax? How? So Mary Trump had to be convinced. She's on record as saying she's the source. She wrote a book on it. Very proud of it, she stated. And it's just unbelievable. How did they obtain... The New York Times went into this entire elaborate, this elaborate investigation, pretending they were accountants. Exactly, Billy. How did she obtain the records? And so you have two publications dedicated to defending the Democratic Party at all costs. And I would even say a specific establishment faction within the Democratic Party, because you see sometimes these articles like, Biden removing Americans from Afghanistan, oh, that's his biggest mistake. It's like, well, okay, you're critiquing him because you want a very neoconservative establishment Democrat foreign policy. So at the end of the day, you're going to vote for Biden anyway, but you don't like what he did. Why? Because he didn't continue never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. But Bendy! Chicken cross there, we'll never know. Bendy, thank you. For some reason, I don't get that. Because my brain is like, I think my brain is decreasing in power right now, like a laptop. Ben D, thank you. Out of the chicken cross the road, we'll never know. Ben D, thank you. I hope all is well, Ben D. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. So, Ben D, what do you think of Bush? Bush fundraising for Cheney, which is the exact, like, everything, every reason to vote for Trump is encapsulated within Bush fundraising for Cheney. What, like, how are they going to how on earth are they going to talk about, well, what are they going to talk about? What are they going to talk about with, like, what are the accomplishments of George W. Bush? Saying that he kept us safe is a very bizarre propaganda spin on the fact that he presided over the worst attack in the history of the country. Ben D, thank you. And the thing is, like, you had, if you want to look at Trump's tax records that were likely illegally obtained or disseminated, look what the Bush administration did to look what Valerie Plame, look what they did to this is a Central Intelligence officer whose identity was leaked, published by the Washington Post. The Bush administration leaked her name, and Scooter Libby, chief of staff, was convicted of lying to investigators. See, that's how they roll. If you play ball, you're going to get the Andrew Cuomo, Scooter Libby, Kevin Kleinsmith treatment. Was he the one who was hunting with Dick Cheney? Man, that's a book you should never read. Hunting with Dick Cheney. That's like, talk about somebody who doesn't abide by basic protocols. But they did that. Why? Because there was a dissenting viewpoint. And they went after her because she opposed Bush's foreign policy, I believe. And that's how they roll. That's how they roll. And it's like, there's so much. This kind of the way Washington works is this constant betrayal and endless quest for political power. And they say that Trump is so corrupt and he did all. They can't indict him or charge him on anything. They can't. They, for the life of them, they can't charge or indict him on anything. They can't charge or indict Trump on anything. On anything. They simply can't charge or indict him on anything. And it's like, all they do is they rest upon this endless support of, like, this endless media, this endless cushion of media support for media propaganda. Adam! The last shout out got me so excited. I think you know what I mean by excited. Adam Cohen! I think I know. I hope I don't know what you mean, actually. Adam! Thank you! Adam Cohen, thank you! God bless you. God bless you. Adam, thank you. Yeah, I mean, you look, ladies and gentlemen, and it's like Bush and Cheney are the reason that Trump, they were the reason that Bernie Sanders they were the reason that Bernie Sanders was, they were the reason that Bernie Sanders became so popular so quickly. Because in 2016 and 2015, he wasn't Mr. Democratic Socialist. I mean, he acknowledged he was a Democratic Socialist, but the socialist word, Vox was trying desperately. I remember it was an interview with Ezra Klein where Ezra Klein said, "You're a socialist, right?" And Bernie was kind of taken aback. The Democratic Socialist, different, very different. And he didn't say let's say it like that, but he wanted to, Democratic Socialist. But he never brought up the fact, he never brought that up as a selling point, because he knew back then it didn't gain steam as a tool to grift money from the left. So he didn't keep that under wraps, but that wasn't something he was so proud of. Yeah, that wasn't something that, that wasn't something that he was, like Bernie Sanders was, trying to sell as, hey, vote for me, I'm a socialist, in 2016. That's why I was so passionate about him. I said, okay, here's the antithesis of George W. Bush. In reality, I didn't realize Trump was the antithesis of George W. Bush, and Bernie voted alongside the Lincoln Project. So there you go. There you go. You have Bernie Sanders voting alongside the Lincoln Project. Okay? That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know is Bernie. You have, who does the Lincoln Project oppose, and then vote for that person? The Lincoln Project would oppose Tulsi Gabbard, would oppose Bernie Sanders in a primary, even though Bernie Sanders voted for the same political party. That's why I don't vote Democrat, in addition to a lot of other reasons. And they're like, well, look at Texas. Like, well, you don't live in Texas. So I thought that it's interesting when the results come in November and Republicans in Arizona say, or Republicans in Georgia say, Trump is wrong. Good Republicans standing up for the Republic. And then when they say, in Texas, we're going to make these laws. No, bad. They don't care about government. They don't care about big government. They care about government they can control in a very big way. That's what they care about, Democrats. Adam, thank you. Exactly. They turned him into this mittens. Oh, look, it's crotchety old Bernie. It's crotchety Bernie. It's crotchety Bernie Sanders. Oh, look. He has mittens on. I'm going to sit here with my mittens. Crotchety. I'll sit here upset and just angry, working. And this is what the meme was like all about. I'm going to be angry and crotchety because, I'm so prickly that I try to just tell everybody that the working class is, and the billionaire class is doing bad things. And what about the $8 trillion to $10 trillion in stimulus and quantitative easing, Bernie, that caused the stock market bubble to eventually collapse very soon, leading to more layoffs and investment accounts turning to the value of a discarded Cheeto wrapper? Oh, you know what? You talk in a very weird manner. I can't understand anything you say because you're just a horrible human being who votes for Trump. They don't care about economics, yet they preach about economics. They don't even have the first. If you ask Bernie, what do you think? What's the Baltic Dry Shipping Index? What is that about? The Baltic Dry Shipping Index. Why don't you shove it where the sun don't shine? Now that's what I think of it. What do you think of inflation under Biden's America, or the Consumer Price Index going up at a high not seen since 2008, Bernie? Or the Producer Price Index? Producers, they're the ones exploiting the employees. What do I care? Well, what do you think about consumer confidence being at an all-time low? I think it's because of Jeff Bezos. That's what I think. Why are you asking me these questions? I'm trying to tweet, or I'm having my intern tweet. I said tweet, not anything to do with what Bill Clinton did, which I don't even know why you would think that I would think that, even though Elizabeth Warren is spreading conspiratorial things about me. Remember when Elizabeth Warren said Bernie Sanders said a woman couldn't win? Remember that? That was fun, right? Oh, thanks, Lizzie. Elizabeth, thanks so much for telling people that I said a woman couldn't win. That's really nice of you. Wow, with friends like you, who needs backstabbing enemies? With friends like you, who needs enemies? Lizzie, you know what I mean by that? I mean that you basically betrayed me by saying that I told you the woman couldn't win. I was talking about Clinton. You mashugana yenta. Thanks a lot. Anyway, that boy Fofo, hello. Anyway, Bernie is a case study in Stockholm Syndrome, and they should rename that Bernie Sanders Syndrome. Every year, 3 scoops. Billy, hello. Wait, that's a Seinfeld thing, right? Why am I little phrases here and there I think are like a Seinfeld skit, and it ends up not being. Anyway, the whole thing's a racket, and it's a giant grift, as they say. But the left, see, when you grew up, generally, if you're watching this, you're probably older than 25 or 30. And I grew up, thank God, right before the internet. I would say, a good deal before the internet. But the internet was, by my 20s, important to people. But now we have a world where the biggest imbeciles and the most ignorant people and the most absurd ideologies and the most distorted virtues, and that's what, like, when historians will look back at this age, it'll be the era of distorted virtues. Did you see Trump? Did you see Trump? He tweeted mean things. Not since all the authoritarians of years past have we seen such a despicable behavior. Blah. It's all this nauseating, warped, twisted, like, analysis and evaluation of Trump in relation to all the other. His critics are infinitely worse than what they claim, what they purport Trump to be. So it's like social media can elevate ideas that would never resonate with a great many people were it not for the groupthink and the tribalism promoted by the internet through social media. You wouldn't get like okay, here's something that the algorithm will allow. Obesity. If you bring it up, it doesn't mean you're shaming anybody. This is the determining factor of whether you have horrible outcomes pertaining to one of the determining factors pertaining to the data on what. Are we going to ban McDonald's? Are we going to ban Burger Kings? Are we going to ban smoking? Are we going to ban alcohol? Well, we tried that already. No. But if you say anything about obesity, you should never have existed, and you should, the re-education camp is right around the corner. You should go and check yourself into it. It's like we live in a world where common sense has been bludgeoned by this immense fear of being mean. Here's a little secret of Democrats. Most Democrats don't believe the nonsense. They just don't want to speak out because they'll be excommunicated. So they don't want to speak out. That's what their whole thing is, just be silent and deal with it because Republicans are worse. That's their whole thing. That is their whole thing. That's how they roll. You couldn't find a greater cult than the Democratic Party. You couldn't find, how do you convince millions of people that Trump worked with Russia? You have to be complete imbeciles to think that Trump worked with Russia. Because there was no, Facebook ads weren't seen by anybody. Or Facebook ads didn't influence anyone. Not one person was influenced by a Facebook ad. That just never happened. It never happened. And so you gotta look and you gotta say, okay, how do, if they'll believe anything as long as media says experts say. If you tell a Democrat experts say, and the Democratic Party also says yes, experts say, they'll believe anything. It's pretty unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be back 10:30, 10:45 or so. So be here 10:30, 10:45, ladies and gentlemen. And Eric and Luke, thank you. Midlife reset. The salt must flow. In 2024. Probably in 2024. And 2022 actually will be the next year will be this one giant year of amazing things. JG, hello. Yes. Very soon. Very soon, JG, hello. Always a pleasure. JG, thank you. Midlife Reset, thank you so very much. Thank you as always. And JG, thank you as always for watching. It's an honor and a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, Midlife Reset, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. I'll be back. Be here tonight, 10:30 p.m. 10:30 p.m. Be here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much. Eric and Luke, thank you. I'll see you tonight, 10:30 p.m. Pacific, about 2 hours from now. Thanks, everybody. Be here at 10:30 p.m. Subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. That'll be below. Thanks, everybody.